Dotted around the United States are small villages and towns that house the world's wealthiest people. From small island paradise communities to affluent neighborhoods in New England, let's begin today's video on the 15 richest zip codes in the United States. Number 15, 33109, Fisher Island. Kicking off the list of wealthiest zip codes in the United States is 33109, Fisher Island. As you may expect, this place is absolutely crazy, and only the richest of the rich can even dream of stepping foot here. But if you do manage to pony up enough cash to afford an abode on this island, get ready to ask the likes of Oprah Winfrey, Mel Brooks, Boris Becker, and Julia Roberts for a cup of sugar, because those would be your neighbors. Just off the tip of Miami Beach, the only way to get to the 33109 zip code is by ferry, helicopter, or private boat, so the locals certainly know how to make an entrance whenever they come home from a long day at the office. The average income of the residents here is about $2.2 million, and according to Bloomberg, the median home value is just under $3 million. And even Oprah's old place went for a cool $20 million. But when you've got space as luxurious as this, you can expect there to be plenty of problems under the surface. The uber-rich residents of Fisher Island came under fire in 2006 when the service employees working for them attempted to organize and bring out a petition for better representation, recognition, and rights. So when they occupied the mainland ferry terminal, many of them were arrested. The local unions continued to argue that despite a median income of $2.2 million, many Fisher Island employees are underpaid and undervalued. Number 14, 90077, Bel Air, California. If you're living in the 90077 zip code, then pat yourself on the back, because you get to sit on your throne as the Prince of Bel Air. Bel Air was once home to the Hollywood and American icons like Walt Disney and Marilyn Monroe, and is now a residential neighborhood on the west side of Los Angeles, California, in the foothills of the Santa Monica Mountains. Founded in 1923, it's the home of cultural staples like the Hannah Center Japanese Garden and the American Jewish University. There are multiple fancy entrances to the neighborhood, with the East Gate at Beverly Glen and Sunset Boulevards, and the West Gate at Bellagio Way and Sunset Boulevard, opposite an entrance to UCLA. Bel Air is generally subdivided into three distinct neighborhoods: East Gate Old Bel Air, West Gate Bel Air, and Upper Bel Air. Bel Air Estates, the original subdivision of Bel Air community, is generally bounded by Nimes Road to the north, Sunset Boulevard to the south, Beverly Glen Boulevard to the east, and both sides of Bel Air Road to the west. It's been reported here that the average income is a whopping $750,000 per household, and the typical property in the area is worth close to $3 million. But there's one abode in particular literally just called The One, which is a 100,000 square foot mansion with 4 swimming pools, a nightclub, and a bowling alley that's been said to be worth a mind-melting $500 million. Even Bloomberg said it would be America's priciest home ever. That is if they can find someone to actually foot that bill. Number 13, 06830, Greenwich, Connecticut. One of the more recent additions to the ranks of the most expensive zip codes is 06830, Greenwich, Connecticut. And while it's always been an expensive place, it wasn't until the COVID-19 pandemic that real estate market truly began to bloom there. Just 1 hour outside New York City, this neighborhood is full of mansions that have become the plaything of the wealthiest New Yorkers who are looking to escape the hustle and bustle of the Big Apple on the weekend. Plus, there's always parking. Even Donald Trump lived there in a $4 million home long before moving to the White House, which makes a bit of sense considering the average home value here is about $1.3 million, and the average household income is about $784,000. And while that number may be less than $1 million, the average income for an American household is just over $31,000. As per the 2020 census, the town had a total population of 63,518. It's the largest town on Connecticut's Gold Coast and is home to many hedge funds and other financial services firms, which also helps to drive those real estate prices up through the roof. There's also been hundreds of films and television shows filmed here, which only helps to glorify the area and bring in even more tourism to pump money into the local economy. However, with so many wealthy New Yorkers living in Greenwich, it may be safe to say that the economy is directly linked to the high-rise offices of Manhattan. Number 12, 07078, Short Hills, New Jersey. Short Hills is an unincorporated community located within Milburn Township in Essex County, New Jersey. It's a popular commuter town for residents who work in New York City. As of the 2020 United States Census, the CDP's population was just 14,422, but the median income here is $800,500, with much of that money coming from working in New York City. Chances are the locals living and working in the surrounding New Jersey counties aren't making a big enough paycheck to cut it here. It's an uncomfortable fact, especially with the median listing price of its homes being $1.75 million as of 2012. And it even was the richest town in America in 2014. It's home to plenty of upscale amenities too, like the mall at Short Hills, and Short Hills is the birthplace of rich and famous Americans like Anne Hathaway, Peter Kellogg, and plenty of company CEOs and hockey players. The trains at Short Hills Kearny Station will take you straight into Penn Station in Midtown Manhattan in less than an hour, making it the perfect place to put your feet up after a tough day at the office. Number 11. 11568, Old Westbury, New York. While the U.S.'s West Coast is no doubt gorgeous and home to plenty of Hollywood stars, the East Coast often flies under the radar, and while New York City is home to plenty of multi-million-dollar high-rise apartments, the surrounding counties offer something a little quieter without skimping out on the luxuries. As of the 2010 census, just over 4,600 people called this place home, but the average income is still nearly $750,000, and the median home value is $2.06 million. Just 1 year later, Old Westbury was the second richest residence in the county. It lies on the heart of Long Island, about 30 miles east of Midtown Manhattan. The median home value is $2.06 million, and entertainers like Ashanti and Howard Stern. But it's also where you'll find the longest-running polo club in the United States, Meadowbrook Polo Club. And if that isn't the epitome of wealth, then what is? On top of polo, residents of the wealthy 11568 zip code can enjoy golf, polo, and a wide range of other activities favored by the affluent. Number 10. 07931, Far Hills, New Jersey. Moving back on over to New Jersey, we have the borough of Far Hills. Far Hills has come from a humble beginning because as per the 2010 United States Census, the population was just 919. And how many people live here as of 2020? Just 915. But the average household income in Far Hills is still $814,400, and the median home value here is set nicely at $980,000. So, who exactly lives here? Well, multiple hedge fund managers, race car drivers, CEO, politicians, and even the former U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, Nicholas Brady, have called this place home at some point. And with a small population, there's a good chance that everybody knows just about everybody else. But when you have this many wealthy people, you can rest assured that there's plenty of wealthy goings-on as well. The 07931 zip code is home to the U.S. Golf Association and the Far Hills Races, the site of the Breeders' Cup steeplechase races. One of the largest estates in Far Hills is Naturirar, a 490-acre property formerly owned by the King of Morocco. Even in this quiet little borough, it's good to be the king. Number 9. 02110. Financial and Seaport Districts, Boston. Business districts are always going to be full of wealth and riches, so it should come as no surprise that the 02110 zip code or the financial and seaport districts in Boston have made it to this list. In fact, this is the wealthiest zip code in Boston, with the median value of a condo or single-family home within the zip code coming in at a mind-blowing $1.34 million. But despite all the people living here in this city, there's a ton of business and industry that calls this place home as well. The financial district also contains the headquarters of the mutual fund companies Fidelity Investments, Putnam Investments, and DWS Scooter Investments. The world headquarters for State Street Bank and Eastern Bank, the accounting firms of Wolf & Company, RSM McGladrey, and BDO U.S.A. The law firms of Bingham McCutcheon, Goodwin Procter, Wilmer Hale, Kirkpatrick and Lockhart, Nelson and Graham, and Mintz Levin Cohn, Ferris Glofsky and Popeo. And the local headquarters of Bank of America and the Santander Bank, the Langham Hotel Boston and Hilton Hotel, and the local offices of Merrill Lynch and other brokerages. That's a whole lot of millions of dollars changing hands here every single day. And aside from all the corner offices overlooking the water, there are some more interesting attractions, like the Boston Tea Party Museum and the Sergeant's Wharf. But with such a high property value, it seems the best way to own a place here is to simply work there. Number 8. 19035, Gladwin, Pennsylvania. The 19035 zip code, Gladwin, Pennsylvania, is home to all sorts of interesting people. but not movie stars, politicians, or world-class pop stars. Instead, it's home to tons of top players in the field of art, science, and the occasional sports star like Allen Iverson. Perhaps that's why the average household income here is $844,700, and the average value of a single-family home or condo in this suburban area is just over $1 million. Sometimes brains bring in the big bucks too, and the residents of Gladwin are no exception. But Gladwin, Pennsylvania has a rich history as interesting as many of its residents. It was originally known as Marion Square until 1891. It was originally settled by Welsh Quakers beginning in 1682. It was given its new name to lessen confusion with the many other Marions in the area, including the town of Marion, Lower Marion Township, and Upper Marion Township, and an imitation of the Welsh names in adjoining towns, although its new name was meaningless in Welsh. 24 mills operated along Mill Creek through the beginning of the 20th century, and the major road through residential Gladwin runs along the banks of the creek. After the American Civil War and following the construction of the Pennsylvania Railroad's main line west of the city center, wealthy Philadelphians located many of their summer homes here. Cut to today, and just over 4,000 people call this suburban community home and enjoy things like the 102-acre Henry Foundation Botanic Gardens and Rolling Hill Park. Number 7. 98039, Medina, Washington. As of the 2020 census, Medina is the most residential city of Eastside King County, Washington, with over 3,200 people calling it home. The 98039 zip code is one of the wealthiest in the United States, with a median household income of $869,500 and a median home price of a whopping $3.1 million. That may be a pretty large gap, but Medina is home to plenty of rich and powerful moguls like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. Even the late co-founder of Costco, Jeffrey Brotman, had a home here. This is a wealthy enclave on the edge of a peninsula about 8 miles from downtown Seattle, with plenty of waterfront properties. The town connects to Seattle via the Evergreen Floating Point Bridge, the longest of its type in the world. And just to serve as a testament to the decadence of Medina, the city is named after the city of Medina in Saudi Arabia and clearly serves as a mecca to the richest and most powerful techies. But the city is also incredibly small, with a total area of just 4.79 square miles, of which 1.4 square miles is land and 3.3 square miles is water. So chances are if you're walking around here, you'll rub shoulders with the likes of Bezos, Gates, and plenty of Microsoft's top executives. Number 6. 60043, Kenilworth, Illinois. The 60043 zip code belongs to Kenilworth, a village in Cook County, Illinois, just 15 miles north of downtown Chicago. As of the 2010 census, it had a population of just 2,513 people. It's the newest of the 9 suburban North Shore communities bordering Lake Michigan and is one of those developed as a planned community. In 2018, Kenilworth was the 8th wealthiest community in the United States and the wealthiest in the Midwestern United States. That's an incredibly impressive feat for such a small population, with the average income per household being a whopping $882,600, and the average house price is about $1.4 million. Who the hell can even afford something like that? Well, world poker champions, a Kennedy, film directors, and billionaire Jude Reyes call Kenilworth home. In fact, it is the richest neighborhood in the United States Midwest. It offers plenty of local attractions, most notably the Hiram Baldwin House, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright and built in 1905. Just south of the community is the campus of the elite Northwestern University, meaning this place is doing what it can to churn out some of the best and brightest minds. And of course, take a cut of the nearly $40,000 per student per year in tuition fees. Number 5. 10577, Purchase, New York. The New York Times has called Purchase, New York's wealthiest area, a sanctum for power brokers and celebrities. Well, why is that? Well, wealth tends to beget wealth, and if you're born here, then chances are that generational wealth is going to stay with you to the end, because no one wants to go backwards in lifestyle. This wealthy hamlet within the town of Harrison is home to some beautiful colonial residences and a number of educational institutions, each one more prestigious than the last. Top corporations like Pepsi and MasterCard are also headquartered here, meaning there are jobs aplenty for the top executives looking to work their way up a corporate ladder. And when you have this much money all in one place, it tends to drive the housing market up, way up. Because not only is the average income an incomprehensible $986,700 a year, but the median home value in Purchase, New York is $1.3 million. So if you're planning on living in the 10577 zip code, then you better start working hard. Number 4. 90067, Century City, California. The 90067 zip code belongs to Century City. Century City is a 176-acre neighborhood and business district in Los Angeles, California. Located on the west side to the south of Santa Monica Boulevard, around 10 miles west of downtown Los Angeles, Century City is one of the most prominent employment centers in the Los Angeles metropolitan area, and its skyscrapers form a distinctive skyline on the west side. And with mass employment and skyscrapers comes lots and lots of wealth. But more importantly, the district was developed on the former backlot of film studio 20th Century Studios, and its first building was opened in 1963. Important to the economy are the Westfield Century City Shopping Center, business towers, and Fox Studios, which is why the average income here is a cool $1 million. The city is a major destination for shopping, businesses, and millionaires looking to live right in the middle of it all. The city of Los Angeles is a densely populated area with nearly 4 million residents, but the concentration of the ultra-rich in Century City has helped to bring the median housing price to about $1.3 million. Number 3. 11962, Sagaponack, New York, the Hamptons. The Hamptons in New York's Long Island is full of the coastal elite, many of whom have more money than you could ever possibly imagine. But the zip code 11962, Sagaponack specifically, really takes the cake. Sagaponack is an incredibly small village on the east end of Long Island in New York. And the village isn't just the most expensive area of the Hamptons, it's the most expensive zip code in New York and is home to a number of CEOs, musicians, famous authors, and celebrities. In 2021, the average home value in Sagaponack cost about $5 million. Writers and literary business people began moving to Sagaponack in the 1950s and 60s because of its quiet and peaceful community. Eventually, Sagaponack became a hotspot for the wealthiest Americans. Some notable people who currently own homes here include Drew Barrymore, Billy Joel, Jimmy Fallon, and Caroline Kennedy. Number 2. 02199, Back Bay, Boston. On its own, Boston is quite an expensive place to live, and as a densely populated city, it's only natural that certain zip codes are pricier. In particular, zip code 02199, Back Bay, a small area near the city's Prudential Center, is the second most expensive zip code in the United States. The area is dominated by office buildings and expensive Victorian-style homes and apartments. The average home price in 02199 in 2021 was over $5.5 million. Also, the residents in 02199 had some of the highest incomes in the country per capita, which is currently around $880,000. But Back Bay wasn't always this way. It's built on reclaimed land in the Charles River Basin. Construction began in 1859 as the demand for luxury housing exceeded the availability in the city at the time, and the area was fully built by around 1900. It's most famous for its rows of Victorian brownstone homes, considered one of the best preserved examples of 19th century urban design in the United States, as well as numerous architecturally significant individual buildings and cultural institutions such as the Boston Public Library and Boston Architectural College. Initially conceived as a residential-only area, commercial buildings were permitted from around 1890, and Back Bay began to transform into what it is today. It also is considered a fashionable shopping destination and home to several major hotels. Number 1. 94027, Atherton, California. The wealthiest zip code in the United States, 94027, belongs to Atherton, California. Atherton was ranked as having the highest per capita income among U.S. towns, with a population between 2,500 and 10,000. It's regularly ranked as the most expensive zip code in the United States. The town has very restrictive zoning, only permitting one single-family home per acre and no sidewalks. The inhabitants have strongly opposed proposals to permit more housing construction, which is how they're able to keep Atherton at the top of the list year after year. There's also a decent amount of association and activities here, all aimed at the richest of the rich, like the Atherton Heritage Association, the Atherton Arts Committee, the Atherton Tree Committees, and the Friends of Atherton Community Library, the Holbrook Palmer Foundation, the Atherton Dames, the Police Task Force, and the Atherton Civic Interest League. There are also homeowners associations in various neighborhoods. The Menlo Circus Club is a private club with tennis, swimming, stables, and riding ring located within the town. Investor Charles Schwab and former eBay and Hewlett-Packard CEO Meg Whitman are just a couple of business folk who have lived in Atherton. Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen's estate sold for over $35 million in 2020, despite the median value of a home in Atherton being only $6.5 million. Start saving. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.